Hello, all my Holomaniacs out there. Welcome back to the channel. It's so great to see you again. Now, I have something extra exciting for you guys today. Today, we're going to have a chat with the one, the only amazing Disney legend, Andreas Deja. He was the supervising animator for characters such as Jafar, Scar, Gaston, Lilo from Lilo and Stitch, Tigger in the 2011 Winnie the Pooh, Hercules, and many more. He even did some Mickey Mouse. This dude is incredible, and I'm so happy to get to sit down and talk with him today. So everybody, please welcome the amazing Disney legend, Andreas Deja!
Hey everybody, hey Brian.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to me today.
Thanks for having me. It's fun.
Absolutely. Now, I just gotta say I've been coming to the Disney Fan Museum for a while, and you've been the curator for about two of their latest exhibits, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been involved in quite a few exhibits actually. I did a smaller one in the main museum. It was about the art of Mark Davis.
Mm-hmm.
That was years ago. And then I helped out and lent some of my artwork that I've been collecting on almost all exhibitions, whether it was Pinocchio or Sleeping Beauty or Mary Blair. So I lend out some of the art I have, but then Mickey Mouse was my first gigantic exhibition a few years ago, and then Jungle Book now is my second one.
Yes, which if y'all have not seen that, go out to San Francisco, go check out. It is incredible. It is so cool. But yeah, I just wanted to come and have a chat with you and get to know you a little bit more. So, what was your journey into getting into animation and getting into this whole business?
Oh gosh, I have to go way, way back to when I was a kid. Um, and it really started with Jungle Book. It's like a full circle. It's crazy. But I grew up in Germany, way over there. And my parents didn't take me and my sisters to the movies. It just wasn't their thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I did hear way back that a new Walt Disney film would come into theaters. And in Germany, we're talking about it came out in 1968. So I was 11 years old, and I had a little pocket money. So a school buddy of mine and I went together to the movie theater, and I saw my first Disney animated film, which happened to be Jungle Book. And my life changed from one day to the next. Basically, I couldn't quite believe what I saw, how this was even possible. You know, that these are obviously drawings that are moving, but they're also real, and they seem to be completely alive. And these characters had a relationship, and they made you feel good, they made you feel sad, go through all these emotions, but they were still drawings. And how is that even possible? So I was just blown away, and I saw the movie over and over again, and to the point where my mom said, now, dear, you just saw it yesterday. Why do you want to see it again? And I said, I don't know, Mom. Give me some money. I just want to see it again. And she just shook her head and gave me two Deutschmarks, or however much it cost. And then it took a little while. It was maybe a few months after that where I thought I really need to write to Walt Disney Studios, and find out, if they need more people, or maybe how I can train myself here in Germany as a kid. Maybe they can recommend some art school or something like that. Anyway, so with the help of my English teacher, I put together a letter with specific questions. Basically, what advice do you have, you Disney Studios, to for me as a kid in Germany, and what I can do here to maybe sometime work for you guys over there. So wouldn't you know, it took about 2 or 3 weeks, and I get this letter in the mail, and the logo on the left was that famous Mickey, and it said
Oh man.
Walt Disney Productions. When it was still called Walt Disney Productions. I mean, it was just. I couldn't even believe it, and then because then it becomes tangible. It wasn't just this far away exotic place, overseas, that seems so abstract, and it was real because they sent me a letter. So I opened it, of course, and it was really, really cool because they pointed out that if I am serious about animation the way they do it at Disney, they said, please don't send us any of your cartoon work. So don't send us any of your drawings of Mickey Mouse and Pluto, because we can teach you that kind of work here at the studio later. They said what you need to do first is you need to become an artist on your own right. We want to see how you draw and how you see the world. So they said go to an art school, take some evening classes if you can, uh, learn to draw animals, go to the zoo and fill up sketchbooks and with all kinds of animals, and not just once or twice, but do this regularly, often. And they said when you're a little bit older, you need to enroll into life drawing classes because as a Disney animator, you have to know the human figure and how the human figure functions and works, the bones, the muscles and all that. So you need to do all that. And I just took that really seriously, and probably more than most kids, because their letter was a form letter that just happened to answer my question. So I kept thinking probably a lot of kids have those questions and then get this form letter back, but maybe don't take this quite as seriously as I did, because I was driven, man. I went to the zoos, all the zoos around my town, within 100 miles, took trains. It was Cologne, Düsseldorf, Hamburg. And those are big zoos, and just sketched my heart out, and eventually enrolled in life drawing classes and improved my skills in drawing the human figure, and took all that really seriously. And then to make a long story a little shorter, I ended up studying graphic design / visual communication in a German town called Essen. And it was a very interesting school because even though they didn't have animation classes in those days, but they had a focus on drawing, illustration, art history a little bit. But the school was kind of fun. It was structured a little bit like the California Institute of the Arts here down here in terms of that they represented all of the arts. So they had dance, they had painting, they had singing, they had graphics, acting, all the arts in one old monastery. It was an old monastery that was converted into an art school. There was a lake right next to it. It was beautiful.
That sounds amazing.
So it was really fun to study there for 4 years. And when I was in my fourth year, I remember I read a book written by John Canemaker. I don't know if you know who that is. John Canemaker has written a lot of books on Disney history, on Disney story artists, on Fantasia, and on special effects. And anyway, and he also teaches at NYU. But John Canemaker had put out a book on the making of a specific movie, and that movie was called Raggedy Ann and Andy, directed by Richard Williams. So it was all about that film and how it was made. And there was one little chapter toward the end about Disney, and it was talking about a animation training program that they have now, and we're talking late 70s, 1970s. And there was a picture of Eric Larson and Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston in front of the animation building, crossing their arms, kind of showing like this is where we live. And I just had to find out. But this chapter also mentioned that Eric Larson, one of the great Disney animators, was the head of this animation program, this training program. So I wrote a specific letter to Eric Larson, again with questions: what is it looking like now? Do you need people? What can I do to apply and all that? And I had the nicest exchange of letters with Eric Larson, one of the greatest animators of all time. Yeah, he wrote back and he answered those questions. And then in the end, I had the courage to copy some of my work, some of my life drawings, some of my animal drawings, illustrations. I just copied them on large size paper and just send it over to him. And I expected like an avalanche of notes and critiques and all of that. And instead, what I got back was another letter from Eric on Jungle Book stationery. I still have that letter, of course.
Oh.
And he thanked me. Basically, he was impressed with my analysis of the human figure and animals, and he was sort of kind of complimentary about my work. And then at the end of this letter, he says, "I think you've got what it takes to make it work for you." So I just about fainted. And so basically, what he was saying is like, finish school first, finish your degree at your school. And I had about I think 9 months left. And then they said, come on over and we'll take you into the training program. Now, this is not a guaranteed job. This is a training program, and they see how you do and how you do with that assignment that you would be given. But that's how it worked out. I finished school, got my degree. I think it was in June of 1980, and I started at Disney in the training program in August of 1980. So it was very, very quick and direct.
Wow. So yeah, you basically just described the dream that so many people who are gonna watch this have, where they just get this letter with Mickey in the corner and getting those letters. I know that's how I felt when I got my first email from Disney because they still use that same Mickey, and I was just like,
I know it's a big deal.
it
It's
is.
yeah, like your first contact with Disney, it is such a huge deal because, like I said earlier, it's not abstract anymore. It's not this company anymore. It's somebody from there is talking to you. Somebody from there is writing to you. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's just oh, it's phenomenal. That's that's an amazing story. I love that so much. um, but another thing that I wanted to ask you is when you came on to Disney, uh correct me if I'm wrong, but the Black Cauldron was the first movie you worked on, right?
Yep, it was.
So you came on right there, right before the Renaissance happened, right when animation as a whole is kind of a dying art form. What was that like to go in there and be working on Black Cauldron with kind of the entertainment world looking at you like, this is gonna die?
I know, but I kind of didn't pay too much attention to what the world was telling me because I was so thrilled and excited to have a job there. To actually, we worked in the old animation building, like in Walt's animation building. We were still there, and the old desks and the old furniture was all still around. Um, it was just so absolutely magical. So I passed the test with Eric Larson in the training programs, and then they hired me full time. And what they were saying to me is like, "Hey, Andreas, we don't need you on the Fox and the Hound. We are finishing that right now. There's just like maybe 2 or 3 months left finishing that up, but we're almost done. We need you on the next one, and that's the Black Cauldron." And I kind of knew that because I had read about that in some Life magazine article. I remember that Disney was going to do this project called the Black Cauldron based on Lloyd Alexander's books. So when I was still in Germany finishing school, I bought those books because I wanted to read them and see what kind of movie they would be making. So it was this big sword and sorcery kind of a theme, and I just started kind of drawing the characters the way I would imagine them, kind of closing my eyes after having read the books, and said, well, Taran the pig keeper could look like this, and the princess could look like that, and the magical pig and when look like that. So I did a whole stack of drawings, and when Disney hired me and I went over there, I took those drawings with me, and I said, by the way, I know you're going to start on this movie, but I just gave it a little bit of thought. What do you think? And I remember the manager, Ed Hansen, looking at me saying like, can we buy those from you?
That's the best.
It's a true story. It really happened. And I said, well, yes, and I think I remember in those days, I think I got about $1,500, but that was enough to help with the apartment that I was renting,
Oh, absolutely.
and that was just crazy. But just the fact that they thought these are good enough to give them a jump start in that direction, was amazing to me. And then Ed Hansen told me, we want you to do more. So they said, here's the deal. We're going to get you an office, and you're going to share that with another young student. He actually graduated from an art school here in California from Cal Arts. And his drawing style is very different than yours because you draw very Disney and dimensional and with a lot of appeal. But Tim's style is a little crazy, a little eccentric. And we think maybe if the two of you work in one office, you can come up with a new style for this film, The Black Cauldron. So that other person was Tim Burton. And
Whoa!
So, yeah.
When you said Tim a second ago, I'm like, wait, I know Burton was an animator around this time. Was it him?
It was him. Of course, in those days, he wasn't Tim Burton yet. He was just Tim.
Right.
We just knew him as Tim. He was one of the guys. So anyway, Tim and I shared my first year in one office, and we were just covering up storyboards with design drawings. And I tried really hard to take his sketches and, for lack of a better word, Disneyfy them and make them dimensional and beat some sense into his really beautiful eccentric drawings. And
Yeah.
it didn't quite work because as soon as you do that, you lose the essence of the Tim Burton style. And we
Hmm.
both got a little frustrated, having been asked that to do this. So in the end, after 1 year, the studio decided, well, they said, let's just go for what they call the Disney house style, you know, like the kind of drawing that audiences are used to seeing from Disney. And Tim got a little frustrated and he left. He didn't leave the studio yet. He did a project for the Disney Channel, but actually before that, he did a stop motion short film with the voice of Vincent Price, who was his
Oh.
favorite actor. He loved Vincent Price, and the short was called Vincent. And so he did that beautiful stop motion film, and then the Disney Channel had just started, so he did a live action pilot uh, of Hansel, with the story of Hansel and Gretel, but with kung fu characters. So it was kung
Whoa.
fu meets Hansel and Gretel. I've only seen a little clip from it, like years later, because Tim Burton had an exhibition that toured the country a few years ago, and they had a little clip of that. It was never really accepted for the channel, but he was just trying to do his thing, you know, and run with his ideas. And I think after that he left the studio, and I think Pee Wee's Big Adventure was his first live action film, and that was his breakthrough into the world of live action,
Hmm.
and all that. But I stayed on, and after that 1 year doing design work on the Black Cauldron, I started to animate and stayed on that one for at least another 2.5 years or so. And yeah, I mean, when you watch the Black Cauldron, at least when I watch it, I see so much inexperience in that film, inexperience in storytelling, inexperience in animation. The characters don't have enough weight, inexperience in good drawing. So it really is on the screen, even though some people don't really notice that, but I do. And the way I look at it, I got all my mistakes, not all my mistakes, but my worst mistakes out of the way in terms of doing animation. But that led me to better things afterwards, because the next one after that was The Great Mouse Detective, which I worked on for just a few months. I handled some of the scenes of the Mouse Queen, and then a big adventure offered itself to me, and that was the chance to work on the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, go to London, work with an English crew, and so forth. So then I went on to do that. But the Black Cauldron was sort of a like a testing time for me to learn and get my mistakes out of the way, you know, and all that.
Yeah, I bet that was, just an amazing thing to be able to just say, like, yeah, this was the movie that we got to throw our ideas up against the wall and see what happened, and be able to cut our teeth on this and be able to understand like what it takes to make one of these. Because
Exactly, it was a big learning experience for all of us.
yeah, but that sounds like a lot of fun. Just like a lot of people who don't have a lot of experience, but they're like, you know what, we're gonna come in here, we're gonna make a movie together, and we're gonna make it the best we can. And I just imagine, I'm sure there were frustrations and heartaches along the way, but the idea is like y'all are all coming in wanting to make this thing amazing, and y'all are learning from each other and growing so much as people and artists in this crazy space.
Yeah, that's what basically happened. And then again, I left California, still working for Disney, of course, and worked for 1 year in London on with the crew on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, while uh, the crew in Burbank did finish The Great Mouse Detective and then went on to Oliver and Company.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't involved in that one either. I just did some design work on Oliver and Company, but not that much, because that 1 year in London was a solid working year. I mean, first I thought, yeah, that would be kind of fun to go to London and see the sights, you know, and the museums and whatnot. No, 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 no. It was work. It was work, work, work,
Oh, I
and
bet.
uh, lots of overtime. There was so much to do in that 1 year that we didn't even know if we could pull that off. Actually, to the point that the company realized that that we needed help, meaning this English crew, and they opened up a LA studio, like a satellite studio, so to speak, to help out. And they basically were responsible for the Toontown sequence. That was all done here in Los Angeles. So the Toontown sequence was done here. The rest of the movie was done in London.
Wow, but that is a triumph of a film right there. Just the I still don't know. I watch it now and I still just look at that going, how did y'all pull that off with with the technology y'all had and with, having to get so many animated characters in there with Eddie and everything. And it's just like how are they pulling this off and how does it look so good? So that was amazing what y'all
Well,
pulled off.
we surprised ourselves because after I had signed on to go there and be part of that movie, I remember thinking on the plane flying over there, now wait a minute, you've never done this before. You don't even know how this works. I mean, I knew from reading about combining live action with animation that they have to film the live action first. I knew that, like they did in Mary Poppins and South. You film the live action first, and then the actors imagine talking to an animated character, and they show the actor how high the character is in the scene, so there's something to focus on. So I knew about that, but how to match the drawing to the live action, I really didn't know. And I said, I guess I'd have to learn on the spot. And well, we all did. So this is how it went. I land at Heathrow, and there was a car picking me up. Nice. And I thought it's going to take me to my apartment where I would be staying. It didn't. It took me straight to the studio. It was still working hours. And I put my suitcase in a corner, and Richard Williams, the animation director, comes in and says, here's your first scene. Here are the photostats, all the photographs from the live action. Here's the exposure sheet. Go. And the scene was the ostrich from Fantasia going up to Maroon's office. It was going upstairs. Bob Hoskins, the actor, Eddie, came out of the office, and they exchange a glance. They look at each other, and then before the ostrich goes into the studio, I thought there could be this little attitude, So I have the ostrich look at Bob Hoskins, just go, and just kind of walk in, like a little starlet attitude. And so yeah, I did the drawings based on all these photographs of the live action, and it worked out. And we tested it, with those live action photographs to make sure that it matches. But then the big moment came when we sent all the elements, our animation, the live action, the special effects, and we sent all of these elements to ILM back in California, and they would sandwich that together and work on the final exposures and add the shadows and all that. And then they sent us the finished scene in color back. And when we saw that, I was just like, is that what the whole film is going to look like? This is amazing. Because the character looked like it's in the movie. It's not just drawn on, it's in the movie, because the character causes a real shadow on the ground, on the live action ground. And it was just crazy. It was just a great moment to see of what kind of a quality film we are making here.
Yeah, no, there's still nothing like that movie to this day. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did want to ask you, since you were such a big part of Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, especially The Lion King, these all became like insanely successful, and like they were cultural phenomenons every time they came out. And a lot of people forget, like everyone looks at Frozen right now and it's just like, oh yeah, that film went nuts. Like, well, Lion King did that too. So what was that like, going from not even a decade prior, everyone's like, oh, you're working on cartoons, okay, cool, whatever, and then it's just like, oh yeah, I was a supervising animator for Scar in The Lion King, and then everyone's jaw dropped. What was that? Did you guys know that when you were making these films that they were going to be like some of the greatest treasures in like the Disney canon?
Well, you know what? I knew that we were breaking through and getting teenagers back into theaters, and excited about Disney animation when I talked to it was a contractor who did some work on my home. I was working on the Little Mermaid. I had actually finished the Little Mermaid. It was after Mermaid, where I actually had animated King Triton, and so I talked to this contractor's son who was a teenager, and he asked me what I was doing. I said, "Well, I work for Disney. We just finished a movie called The Little Mermaid." Oh yeah, he said, "I saw that." He said, "That was a great date film. I took my girlfriend and we snuggled up, and that was a great date for him to take his girlfriend to see this animated film." And I was thinking, like, oh my goodness, they're back. The teenagers are
Yes.
back.
Woo!
Exactly. We had lost them for quite a few years, but they came back, and then of course they stayed for Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and all of those.
Yeah. So yeah, those were all incredible. And I know that you get asked most about Gaston and Jafar and Scar. Um, so you've done a lot of villains. It was that kind of what you is that kind of where your wheelhouse is? Do you like doing the villains more, or do you like doing the heroes more? Since you also did like Tigger and Mickey and Lilo, which one is do you prefer? Do you prefer doing the heroes or the villains?
Well, to be honest, the villains in most cases are more interesting characters to animate because villains motivate a story. They want things their way. They want to change things. It's like the prince and the princess. They just want to have everything nice and beautiful and live happily ever after, and you don't have a story there. But the villains, they want to mess things up and they want to take power. They want to get the power, out of and again have things their way. So they are those are usually characters that are eccentric, that have broad mannerisms, facial expressions, where you can go a lot further with the acting because they often have tempers. So there's a big range in terms of the acting. While with the what we call the straight characters, the princes and the princesses, you have to be much more subtle with those kinds of things and careful with the drawing. You have to look nice, and even the acting is subdued and real. But with villains, you can go to town. When I think about a character like Jafar, I gave him this strange face. It looks like a mask, but yet it forms. It has lips and it forms words, And I could be very inventive with the way he talked. If you remember, he has these big shoulder pieces on his
Yeah.
costume, and I made them extra wide as a place for his parrot to, like a stage set, sort of for his parrot, Iago. And so the bird could walk up and down his shoulder, basically, and then Jafar could just hold still, but his mouth could talk to the parrot over there. And his mouth could talk, his lips could move over there. I mean, there was so much fun to be had with that character because he had such an eccentric, caricature look to him. So yeah, villains. Same thing with Gaston and Scar. They were just so much fun. Actually, by the time I was finished with Jafar, which was my second villain, and we were starting on Lion King, and nobody was cast yet in terms of the animation. I thought, well, it's probably going to be somebody else's turn to do the villain because I had just done two, obviously, and so
Yeah.
looking around, maybe I should ask to do Simba or the hyenas would be kind of fun to do. And then word got around the studio that the actor Jeremy Irons had just been hired to voice Scar. And I had a chance to listen to some of his early recordings. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I have to do this. But how do I even ask? Because I had just done two bad guys. I cannot ask for a third one. That's like selfish or whatever. And but I thought I have to ask. So I went into the director's room and I said, you guys, I know I already have done two bad guys, but when I listened to those early tracks by Jeremy Irons, I was just closing my eyes, and there's something that just happened. I could see it. I could see it and I could feel it. And as I was going on and on about it, they said, well, we kind of had you in mind the whole time to do this character.
So they just let you go on and gush about it, even though they're like, "Oh, you've already got the job, but go ahead and tell us what you
Basically,
want."
shut up, you got it. But I was so thrilled because it turned out to be such a rich. I mean, what a voice. And Jeremy
Hmm.
Irons is really one of those actors who can make anything sound important and rich and wonderful. And I
Oh
kept
yeah.
I kept saying this in those days. You probably heard me saying this, but he could read the Burbank phone book, and I would want to animate that. I mean, that's
Oh,
how good he is.
absolutely.
He just has a way of making dialogue sound unusual,
Hmm.
interesting, and really character rich. So there wasn't one scene with Scar where I was thinking, now I could play it like this, or I could play it like that, or I could do this. It was always like, got it. And you just knew how to play this because it was so clear because of his voice.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, selfishly, that's my favorite one that you've ever done because The Lion King is my favorite Disney movie. Period. Just I adore it so much. But do you have a favorite character that you've done?
Um, it would be, I mean, you heard this old cliche from animators. Oh, they're like our own children. You can't pick your favorite, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. But there is a little bit of truth to that because I was lucky because I really enjoyed all of the assignments that I had. There was one character they asked me to do, which I was dreading to animate. That didn't happen. So I kind of like him for different reasons. I like Scar because of the acting challenge, because Jeremy Irons made that lion, the character, intelligent, and the
Yeah.
mix of intelligence and uh, and villainy is really dangerous because when
And
you have a
especially
smart
because
villain,
he's like the only villain who actually achieved his goal.
yeah,
Like he
exactly,
achieved it.
the ultimate evil, to kill his brother and blame his nephew is the ultimate evil.
Yeah.
So from an acting point of view, it was such a great challenge, and but also a challenge from the point of view that it was a four-legged animal, because before that I'd always done straight up characters. I mean, even Roger Rabbit is not a four-legged rabbit; it's just like a cartoon rabbit, sort of humanized. And the characters in the Black Cauldron that I did were humans. Uh, so this was one on four legs, so I couldn't use gestures, the hands or paws to do that. I snuck it in a few scenes because when you have a close up, you could lift the paw and he could do that. Like roll his paw. You couldn't do it in
Yeah.
a long shot because when you see the whole body, it looks funny, but you could do it in a close up once in a while. Um, so very limited in terms of gestures, and you have to be much more careful in terms of what angle you use for the head, or the overall body language becomes really important because you just don't have hands.
Yeah.
So there, there was an interesting challenge. Jafar I like because of the graphic quality. It was just plain fun to draw, and
Hmm.
Gaston was probably the most difficult character of all of them because of the
Really?
because of the realism involved. I had him.
Right.
I had him. I thought of him early on as, well, the villain, of course, and I drew him like a villain with a big jaw and a mustache, and oversized muscles and all that, and because he was the villain. And I remember when management saw the early animation I had done for the film, they said, "Well, the animation looks good, but he doesn't look handsome enough." And I said, "Handsome? He's the villain." And then they kind of left it at that. And I remember our then boss, Jeffrey Katzenberg, after 2 weeks, he knew that I was messing with the whole idea of a handsome villain. And he called me into his office and he said, "Look," he said, the theme that we're trying to tell here with Beauty and the Beast is really don't judge the book by its cover." Meaning, when we see the Beast in the movie for the first time, he is ferocious and he's really scary. But you find out throughout the story slowly that he really inside he has a heart of gold and is a good guy. And Gaston has the absolute opposite qualities. We see him; he's a real handsome dude. He probably should marry Belle. He's sort of the hero type. But we find out not is he a male chauvinist. He's full of himself, and he even becomes a murderer at the end of the film. So again, the opposite quality. So because the Beast is ugly, Gaston had to be handsome. And I remember telling Katzenberg, "Yeah, but handsome characters are so much more difficult to animate." You know what he said? He said, "Nobody said it was going to be easy."
But that goes right back to what you were saying before. That's why you liked doing a lot of the villains, because they didn't have to be played straight. They could be played, just crazy and silly, and they could go over the top. And yeah, I could see why Gaston would be really difficult there, because he's a villain, but you gotta play him like the straight guy.
You got to play not like the straight guy, but you have sneak in somehow some eccentric qualities to make him interesting. If you
Right.
just if he just moves like a real person, with no exaggeration at all, then it's flat and it's
Hmm.
lifeless. So I snuck some facial expressions that were a little eccentric, whatever I could do. So you're kind of walking the fine line, uh, making him interesting looking and expressive without making him look ugly. So because of that, I would say he was the most difficult character to animate. Rewarding though, because you want to be able to do something like that too. You just want to be pinned as the villain, as the typical villain guy. He was sort
Right.
of a unique villain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You don't want to get pigeonholed in anything, but it
Yeah.
looks like you weren't, because then you went on to be able to do Lilo on Lilo and Stitch. I believe you also did Hercules, right?
I did adult Hercules, and wouldn't you know, they originally offered me to do Hades, and how stupid am I to turn down Hades? But I did, and for that very reason, I said, "Look, I've done 3 villains recently. If I do another one, even though the material is going to be rich and great, but I think I run into the danger of repeating myself in terms of acting and expressions, and
Right.
I really don't want to do that." And the way I put it to them, I said, "If I have a choice, I think I really want to do adult Hercules because I haven't done a character like that. He's shy. He's not sure of himself. He just wants to do good. He wants to be a hero, and that's a whole much more subtle character concept than uh, stuff that I'd done before." And they said, "Okay, then do that character." And I really enjoyed doing Hercules. I love the voice. The actor, what was his name? Ted Donovan. I think he had a real good feel for the character. And you just switch gears. For villains, you have a certain gear, and you switch it down for a hero type. And same with Lilo. She was another completely different concept. A girl with full of issues and problems. And yet
And a very vivid imagination.
very vivid imagination and really deep inside full of joy too. So
Hmm.
but that is the fun part of being an animator, that you can hop around and do completely different character concepts. You as an actor, you're a little limited by your looks. I mean, you can change some of it through makeup and all that, but overall you're kind of limited. But in animation, not at all.
That's one of the main reasons I like being a voice actor and not an on-camera actor. That's way more fun that way.
Give it time, Brian. Give it a few years, and we'll see you on the screen.
Oh, maybe, you never know.
You know,
Now, um, I know that I think you mentioned this in the talk that you gave at the Jungle Book that I was able to attend, where you said when the Lion King was first being pitched to the animators, it was also pitched alongside Pocahontas, and
mhm.
all of the most of like the main team of animators from Beauty and the Beast wanted to go to Pocahontas, and you were the only one who wanted to do Lion King. Was that true?
Just about the only one. Uh, yeah, what happened there briefly, a recap. After Aladdin, uh, the crew was getting a little bit tired because it was always the same animation crew who did one movie after the other. And we had 1 year, always 1 year to animate it. And we spoke to management and we told them about it. And they said, okay, why don't we split you guys up in 2 units, and then we flesh out and add on more people to each unit, and then you have a year and a half to animate the movie. And that made all the difference, and life became somewhat easier for us. But
Mm-hmm.
the first 2 movies that would be done simultaneously would be Lion King, or King of the Jungle, as it was called then, and
Mm-hmm.
Pocahontas. And wouldn't you know, the studio gave the animators a choice of which project they want to work on. And then each project, one night we had this wine and cheese thing, going on, where they put up artwork from Lion King, and the Lion King wasn't really that far along. They didn't have a solid story yet. It was about the lion cub growing up in Africa, and then things just happened, and he matures into an adult lion. That's basically all they had. And some cynics already called it Bambi in Africa. It's just about this thing growing up, and that's it. And while Pocahontas, they already had a very strong concept. These two lovers from different backgrounds. It was a Romeo and Juliet story, and uh, that had tension. That had already something you can hang your hat on. The whole idea to explore Indian beliefs, and all of that. They had the most beautiful concept art you can imagine. So, like you said, everybody just ran over to Pocahontas, and I was there whistling at the Lion King art. Anybody interested in drawing animals? It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be nice. Remember Jungle Book animals? It's gonna be fun. Tumbleweeds. It was sort of like that. And then in the end, Ruben Aquino decided to also do Lion King. But a lot of the animators on Lion King had never supervised the character. They had helped out, but they never supervised it. I remember talking to Disney management about it, and I said, "These are real animals. These are not cartoon animals. These people have to. I mean, the animators. We all have to know anatomy, and we have to give our characters weight and believability. And these young guys, they haven't done this. And I was just told, well, we're going to just give them a chance and see how it goes. They said, oh, great. It's going to be all this stuff that won't look good. And I was sort of like gloomy, but luckily it did work out because we also did do a lot of research for Lion King. We went to all the local zoos, San Diego, LA, went behind the scenes, got close to the animals. We even had lions in the studio in our conference room. There's a farm just outside of LA that trains animals for movies and music videos, and so these are hopefully tame lions, tame animals. They brought them into a conference room, and it was just a guy, and I remember the big lion had a chain around his neck, and what it really did to me anyway is like they're even bigger than you thought they would be, because when you see a lion at a zoo, it's at a safe distance, far away under a tree, and there's your lion. But when they come into your environment, it's like there's an office chair, and there's a table, and there's a lion. You can't even open up your arms wide enough to show you how big how wide their mane is in their head. They're humongous. And the weight, when this thing gets up and every step carries all this weight, and we knew we had to have that in the animation, So it was a real fascinating teaching moment for us. So we did as much homework as we had time for to jump into the animation of Lion King, but it paid off, and some of these new guys who, like I said, had never done it before, they came through beautifully.
Yeah, it it was incredible. Now I know you said you got a lot of your inspiration from Jungle Book and then rushing to go do the Lion King, so obviously animal animation means a lot to you. Is there ever been an animal that's been your favorite to animate, or one that you wish you could make, like you could work on?
It was funny you ask, because I love tigers. I've done Tigger in the last Winnie the Pooh movie, and that's sort of a tiger.
Yeah.
Tigger to me is interesting because visually he's such a sophisticated design. It's a mix of a tiger and a plush toy and Picasso. And I'm saying Picasso because he's got these very stylized graphic angles, and things are either round or straight. It's very, very graphic, and you have to tune in on that as a draftsman and animator. So anyway, I done Tigger, haven't done a real tiger yet. So just a few years ago, when I was starting on my own film, in my own independent film, I thought the same thing. What animal would you like to draw that you haven't? And I thought I would love to animate a real tiger. I have some experience with Lion King, with big
Oh yeah,
cats, so I can translate onto this tiger. And so I did, and I thought wouldn't it be fun to have a character set up with a young girl and a tiger. It's like this innocent little girl and this big ferocious tiger. There could be some tension and some beauty in that. And I
yeah,
thought, what if this little girl finds this tiger cub who turns out to be an orphan, and she raises him, and then he becomes a big tiger. But of course, they bond over time. But the girl finds out there are mean people, bad people around them who want to kill the tiger and sell him because a dead tiger is worth a lot of money on the black market. And
yeah,
so she finds out about it, and the only way she can think to save him is taking him back into the forest where she found him, and hopefully he would stay there away from humans and be a wild tiger or become a wild tiger. But maybe things don't go according to plan. So that was my idea. I didn't have a beginning of the story and didn't have an end. I had a little bit of the middle, and so that's when you realize you need some help in storytelling, and you reach out and ask friends who know this stuff, who maybe have written a script or have written a novel or whatever. So I got help from a friend of mine, and he wrote this beautiful outline that brought in other characters. The girl's father, who she never knew, but she was sent to be with him because the grandmother falls ill at the beginning of the movie, who raised her. So there's that tension. So it became a whole world for this girl that we made up, actually. So and now I'm almost finished with the film. It's coming out soon.
oh my goodness. What's the name of it so people can be looking for it? That sounds fantastic.
Well, the film is called Mushka,
Mushka.
and Mushka is actually a Russian word of endearment. It means something like sweetheart.
Hmm.
I found out if you directly translate it, it means little fly, but
Oh,
parents would use it for their little child. Oh, my little Mushka, and you give your child a kiss. It's that kind of a word. And so she calls her tiger Mushka, asked after she discovers a birthmark on his forehead that looks like an M. And her father,
oh,
her father asked her after he refused at first to let her keep this tiger cub because he knows that it's going to grow into something big. But he finally gives in and he asks her, "So, what are you going to call him?" And we have a close up of the girl going with her finger over this M birthmark. And then we cut to a musical scene and she's just calls it Mushka. And this little tiger cub comes running after her. And they start playing and all that. And by the way, that musical sequence was composed by the one and only Richard Sherman from the Sherman Brothers.
oh my gosh. Okay, I have to watch
I'm
this
not
now.
I'm not kidding you. He
I
wanted to
already
write a
wanted to
song.
watch it. You've already
Yeah.
you already got me hooked on it, and then you throw that in. It's like, well, it's a no brainer. I'm gonna be watching this.
And by the way, we got Richard Sherman music. We do. It's incredible. And I just finished. I'm not kidding you. Last Sunday night, I finished the very last drawing of the movie. It's going to be an
Oh,
almost half-hour movie, and now it's already 99% in color. And we're doing final sound right now with none other, another name dropping here, with Skywalker Sound. They're doing final sound right now as we speak,
oh my
and we're doing
goodness.
the final orchestration with an orchestra in Vienna Orchestra in Vienna, Austria, and we're doing that remotely from here, so we don't have to travel over there. But my composer has done this before, so we have to have these post production milestones now to meet. But it'll be all completely done, finished version by the end of the year.
Oh, well, I cannot wait to see that. And I know the viewers will be excited to see that too. Well, I was about to ask, is there anything you'd like to promote that you're working on? But I think you just got to. Is
I
there anything else you'd like to mention?
just snuck it in very subtly and very, very carefully. But if people want to find out more about the movie, I don't know, Brian, if you know about my blog. I have a blog called Deja
Oh.
View. It's like
Ah,
Deja, like my last name, and then View, like a nice view. And if you
mhm.
Google that, you get to my blog, and it has about 12 years of blogging about Disney animation, Disney history, about the old animators and their work and my work. And on the top left of the front page, there's this thing called blog search, and you just put in the word Mushka, and all the posts come up that deal with my film and visuals and updates and that kind of stuff. So if people are interested, just go to my blog.
There will be a link in
Another
the description as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have a link so
Shameless.
everyone can check it out. Oh no, you can be as shameless as you want. Go right ahead. Because this is all fascinating. I'm gonna go check it out after we're done here. This sounds phenomenal. So I'm excited to go check it out.
Check it out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was a real pleasure for me.
Oh, thanks for having me, Brian. You're
Absolutely.
awesomely talented. I have a lot of respect for what you do, and I enjoy your YouTube videos, and you're just awesome.
Oh gosh. Why, thank you. But I guess with that, we'll say TTFN, ta-ta for now.
For now.
Since you did Tigger, I had to do a little bit of Tigger.
Absolutely. Wouldn't have it any other way to close other than this way.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys want to go to any of the links that Andreas talked about, they will be in the description of this video, so it'll be right there, easy for you to get to. And also, if you guys have not gotten a chance to go to the Walt Disney Family Museum and see the new Jungle Book exhibit that Andreas Deja was the curator of, you need to go to it. It is incredible. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!